Voxfarm presents.
Today, we're talking about Castel Sant'Angelo, the famous Roman monument that witnesses the sad events of the third and final act of Giacomo Puccini's opera, Tosca. We'll discover the ancient origins of this place and the incredible ways in which it's changed over time. Let's listen to this new podcast by Professor Claudio Strinati.
Welcome to Lirica, the podcast about Italy's cultural heritage. We'll tell you about works of art and artists, musical masterpieces and musicians. We'll visit incredible places and meet characters from every era. They'll tell us about their lives and even a bit about our own. Because culture is simple when it speaks the language of beauty.
Castel Sant'Angelo gets its name because over centuries this building, originally the mausoleum of the Roman Emperor Hadrian, celebrated in Marguerite Yourcenar's famous book, was transformed into a fortress, one that performed its difficult role rather well in dramatic historical circumstances. This is especially true for the papacy. During the sack of Rome in 1527, the Landsknecht, on the orders of Emperor Charles V, invaded Rome, setting the city alight and arresting the Pope, Clement VII de' Medici. He managed to escape, locking himself in Castel Sant'Angelo, which was known to be virtually impregnable. However, Hadrian designed his mausoleum to be a place of meditation, silence, and reflection. Inspired by Augustus's mausoleum on the Campus Martius, Hadrian also wanted his mausoleum to be a circular building, as if an artificial hill had risen up on the plain of the Tiber containing his funeral chamber. It's likely that it was surrounded by statues and formal decorations, maybe culminating in one or more quadrigas, a symbol of the journey to the beyond. But Hadrian's actual mausoleum can no longer be found, thanks to alterations made in the Middle Ages, in the 16th century, and subsequently. It's become one of the great mysteries of this place, which is laden with arcane memories and holds a secret that, perhaps, is destined never to be revealed, despite the countless and at times extensive alterations that it's undergone over the centuries. Here, Cavaradossi will meet a particularly contemptuous death, and Floria Tosca will inevitably follow him, throwing herself from the terrace of the castle. A scene that always makes today's directors and set designers a little worried, even fearful, in case the soprano gets injured because something happens during the live performance that wasn't prepared for in the rehearsals. Cavaradossi's painful meditation in the final aria E lucevan le stelle and the stars were shining is perhaps the most articulate and moving piece of music to link the spirit of a setting with the piece's striking message, which is undoubtedly one of death and desperation. So it's odd to think that the Colosseum and Castel Sant'Angelo, two monuments in Rome that are now considered to be top tourist attractions, welcoming huge numbers of visitors, are both places of death. And terrible death at that. Of course, history has allowed them to redeem themselves, and in a certain sense Puccini's music also has a profound sense of redemption. In Castel Sant'Angelo's case, this is in spite of the two lovers' inescapable death, concluding their story in sombre tragedy. Whereas the Colosseum has over centuries been changed and modified incessantly, slowly shedding its reputation as a place where horrendous massacres were perpetrated for the purposes of popular entertainment. In the Middle Ages, it was a baronial family home. Before, during and after this era, it was used to quarry marble to construct the new Rome. It was also a distinguished botanical garden, thanks to the incredible quantity and quality of plants that grew there over time. Eventually, it became a luxury plaything and tourist attraction, meaning it was no longer something to be enjoyed only by the city's citizens, later becoming a national museum with rather expensive entry tickets. Castel Sant'Angelo suffered the same fate. It also became a national museum long before the Colosseum. It attracts huge numbers of visitors because it's considered by tourists as having a splendid panoramic terrace from which to enjoy all of Rome. This is true. From the terrace on the summit of the castle, the view is incomparable. You can get right underneath the Angel, an amazing bronze sculpture from the 18th century which depicts the episode where the castle's demonic dimension was exorcised, since it was originally a pagan edifice. When, in August 590, a fearful plague hit Rome, one which makes COVID-19 pale into insignificance by comparison, Pope Gregory I announced a solemn procession, the likes of which had never been seen before. 3 consecutive days to ask divine protection from the plague. As the cortege crossed the bridge leading to Hadrian's mausoleum, the Archangel Michael, wearing his customary armour, appeared in the sky. In his hand, his flaming sword, which he slowly placed in its scabbard to signify the end of the plague. To commemorate this metaphysical event, the monument, which had already undergone enormous changes since its pagan origins, was named Castel Sant'Angelo. After the medieval period, another pope, Paul III Farnese, commissioned extensive renovations to the immense castle. These renovations included an unauthorised development, a large extension to the summit to be used as a papal apartment. He did well, though, because that apartment is a marvel, perfectly conserved, and still has its splendid frescoes and stuccos that the pontiff, copying the Roman Emperor Nero's Domus Aurea, had created by a team of artists under the direction of one of Raphael's very famous students, the Florentine artist Perin del Vaga. This decoration is a memorable instance of classic antiquity being resurrected in a modern era. In fact, Perin del Vaga reinstated the use of grotesques, which could still be seen on the Domus Aurea. He imagined marvellous stories. The most significant of these relates to Alexander the Great, which he included because Pope Paul III's real name was Alessandro. An interesting coincidence. Who knows if Cavaradossi and Tosca had time to see those decorations? I doubt it. She runs to tell her lover that Scarpia has arranged a fake execution which would leave him free. Naturally, it's not fake, and when Cavaradossi sings the heart-breaking sortita Dolci baci e languide carezze, sweet kisses and languorous caresses, a shiver runs down the spine of the listener because they know what the character means but dares not believe. It's as though the ancient ethos expressed by Perin del Vaga and his many magnificent collaborators runs through Puccini's piece, which moves imperceptibly from recitative to emphatic crescendo singing. Actually, Puccini always does this, but in Tosca's finale it really seems as if the entire universe is singing as one of hope and disappointment. Even today, anyone visiting the castle can, if they try, sense these same feelings. It's unlikely, though, because they are too complex and painful, and tourists are there for fun. However, you can still feel the atmosphere of the prison, which releases its inmates only when they die. And it reminds us of the story of one of Cavaradossi's illustrious colleagues. This time, it's a sculptor, not a painter. It's the story of Benvenuto Cellini, who in the 16th century was actually incarcerated in Castel Sant'Angelo, but using skills to match those of the Count of Monte Cristo, he managed to escape this dark prison and have a career as one of the greatest artists of the 16th century. He created Perseus, which towers over Florence in the Loggia dei Lanzi, a solemn reminder of the melancholy that grips those who cause death. Cellini's statue's gaze is eternal. It observes the blood dripping from the severed head of the Medusa, frozen in bronze. The visual effect is striking. Yet Perseus, the hero, appears withdrawn and seems to remind us more of the sad fate of Cavaradossi than the Greek myth.
These words were written by Claudio Strinati. Music was by Giacomo Puccini. They were read by Douglas Dean.
If you want to learn more about the things we've talked about today, or find out more about our project, visit our website at lirica.tv or our social media profiles at Lirica Music Art. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with new episodes and lots more content on art, culture, and music. Lirica is a project promoted by Voxfarm and financed by LazioInnova as part of the FESER Lazio 2014-2020 Regional Operating Program.